Welcome to Better Police Reports. I'm Jean Reynolds. Today's topic is traditions. Traditions can be positive things. They're predictable and we know what to do. But traditions can also outlive their usefulness. So we're going to be talking about some traditions in police report writing. First of all, I want to tell you a story that I think illustrates the point about traditions very well. Now, it's not a criminal justice story, but I think you'll enjoy it. The story is about a monastery, and you probably know that a monastery is a place where monks live, men who spend their lives in prayer. Well, the monastery had a problem. The abbot, who was the man in charge of the monastery, had a pet cat that he was very fond of. But the cat was a problem. At night, when the monks were saying their evening prayers, the cat got very active, which is something that a lot of cats do, because they're nocturnal. And the cat would run around and jump and try to play and meow, and the monks were getting distracted from their prayers. So the monks came up with a solution. They assigned a monk to catch the cat every evening just before prayer time and put a leash on it so that it couldn't run around anymore. And then when the prayers were over, they took the cat off the leash. Problem solved. Time went by. The abbot died. The cat died. Guess what the monks did? They went out and adopted another cat so that they could put a leash on it before their evening prayers. In other words, they got things backwards. They forgot why they were confining the cat every evening during prayer time. Do traditions ever create a problem in police reports? Well, I think that they do. Sometimes we don't catch up as times change. So I'm going to mention two traditions that you might want to think about. Perhaps you do them, or perhaps you can think of similar traditions that need to be updated. The first tradition concerns the opening sentence in a report. Now, nowadays, most officers write their reports on laptops, and you have all these boxes that you fill in with date, time, your ID number, and so on. But of course, for many, many years, police reports were written on plain pieces of paper. And one of the concerns was that a busy officer might forget an important piece of information. So in the academy, officers were always taught to write a 5W sentence: who, what, when, where, and why. And this became a rather complicated, long sentence, but it was very useful, and it would be something like this. On January 14, 2015, at 9:42 a.m., I, Officer Nancy Wilson, ID number 05312, was dispatched to, and there was an address, 4A, and there was a nature of a call. For example, it might be a domestic disturbance. Very helpful. Fast forward to today when we have laptops. You don't need that first sentence anymore, and it takes time to write. You have boxes to fill in to make sure that you don't forget the address, the time, the nature of the call, and so on. But some officers keep writing that 5W sentence. Now, what's the problem with that? It's just one sentence. Why do we have to change the tradition? Well, I can think of two reasons why you might want to think about not doing that anymore if you're still writing that 5W sentence. One, it's inefficient. Now, that's not a problem if you're writing one or two reports a week. But busy officers often write report after report after report. That one long, complicated sentence, done over and over again, eats up time. Now, there's another problem. Professionals want to be on top of things. You want to keep up to date. And if you're continuing to write this sentence because it's the way we've always done it, I think you're kind of tarnishing your reputation as a professional a little bit. All right, let's look at another tradition. Many officers use the word advise when they mean said or told. Well, the word advise is supposed to mean counsel or suggest, and that's the way that most people use it most of the time. Imagine that you ran into an old friend of yours from high school and he told you he was getting married next month, and you're going to tell another friend about it. You wouldn't say, I just ran into Joe and he advised me that he's going to be getting married next month. You would say, Joe told me he's going to get married. But many officers, when they put on a uniform for the first time, stop saying said and told, and they keep saying advise over and over again. Let me give you a couple of examples. Mr. Wilson advised me that he usually leaves for work at about 7:45 in the morning. Sandra Jones advised me that she heard a scream in the middle of the night. Well, they didn't advise you. There was no advice. They told you. Now, what's the problem with using advice? I mean, many officers use it. They've been doing it for years. Well, I can think of two problems. One, as you climb the career ladder, you are going to be talking to more and more people, some of them important people, outside of criminal justice, who are going to be confused that you're using the word advise this way. And I can tell you a story about a former student of mine who ran into this. He was a very ambitious and very smart man, and he eventually got a PhD in sociology. For his dissertation, that's a required research project, he did a lot of interviews with police officers about a certain issue, and really it was a wonderful piece of work. But he confused his academic committee. Remember, this is a university, not a police agency. They said, what is this advise that's going on? We don't see any advice. For example, he would write, Officer Brown advised me that he'd been on the force for 15 years. No, he didn't. Officer Brown told him. Now, there's a second problem with the word advise. And again, let's think if you climb the career ladder and you become a supervisor. One day you have to have a meeting with an officer who's not really following procedures correctly. So you talk about the procedures and you remind him and so on. And then after the meeting is over, of course, you write a little report about it because you want a record. Now, what if you say that you advised the officer to follow procedures? That sounds like you suggested or encouraged. It doesn't sound like you told him. So I would say you need to make a careful distinction between advise and told, even though it's a law enforcement tradition to blend the two. You can learn more about report writing traditions and many other topics at my website, www.yourpoliceright.com. Everything there is free and no registration is required. I also encourage you to take a look at my book, Criminal Justice Report Writing. It's available at Amazon.com. You can also purchase it as an ebook, and you can see a free preview online. I hope you'll consider sharing this video with friends and co-workers, and thanks for watching.